Welcome to episode 2 of Love Ultras. I'm John Kynaston. In this second episode, I thought I would do something about the Highland Fling. The Highland Fling race is a week on Saturday, so it's about 11 days to go, and I'm really looking forward to running it this time. The race has been going since 2006, so this edition this year in 2017 will be number 12. And of those 11 previous races, I've run 7 of them. So I've been involved from 2007 onwards, and then I've had a break for the last 3 years. Those who don't know about the race, basically it's the first 53 miles of the West Highland Way. So it starts at Mulgai, and then you make your way through Drimmen, Balmahar, Rowadennan, Inversnaid, Benglass Farm, and then up to Tyndrum. And it was started in 2006 by Ellen and her partner at the time, Murdo, and basically they wanted to do a run in preparation for the West Highland Way. And so instead of Ellen running on her own, she thought it'd be nice to organise a race and have a few more people joining her. And that first year there was 18 started and 17 finished. And it's been really interesting just to see the way the race has progressed over the last 11 years. See the stats on the screen there. Basically each year it's gone bigger and bigger and bigger. Last year 701 started and 625 finished, which was a success rate of 89.16%. This year there's 1,000 people were given places. Not quite sure how many will actually start, and not sure obviously how many will finish, but I'm sure it will be a higher number than the 625 that were last year, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'd say it's a great route, really enjoyable. First half of the West Highland Way, so it's a great race in its own right, but also it's a great race if you want to prepare for the West Highland Way, which is 8 weeks later. John Duncan has been the race director for the last few years, and each year he just seems to add things on, and it grows and it gets bigger and better. And so I say I'm looking forward to running it this year. So I thought for this Love Ultras, I would just give a little recap of the 7 Highland Flings that I've run so far. My first one was in 2007, and that was the very first ultra that I ran. And I think at the end of it, I really felt as though I was an ultra runner now because I'd completed the race. I was pretty excited. I had an 11-hour plan that I wanted to see if I could get under that from the training I'd done. I thought that was a realistic goal. I ran pretty sensibly. I think I was I'd done my longest run before that had been 42 miles, so I was always conscious that I was having to run another 11 miles further than my furthest run, so I wanted to start pretty sensibly. And I think by the time I got to Benglass, I was 30 minutes ahead of my 11-hour schedule and feeling pretty good. I ran a fair bit of the way with Ian Beattie, a good friend, and Ian and myself sort of yo-yoed a few times. I think I left him after Benglass and got ahead, but I remember struggling a bit after Benglass Farm. No, we were together, Balmahar, and then I got ahead. And by the time I got to Benglass Farm, I was starting to struggle a bit. My legs were getting a bit tired. And I remember coming into Derry Darragh, where my support team were meeting me there. And as I left, Ian arrived. And I remember thinking, oh no, he's going to catch me. And I spent the last sort of 9 miles of the route thinking that Ian was coming any moment. He didn't quite catch me, and I gather he had a few cramp issues at the time and was catching me, but had to slow down a bit, so he finished a few minutes after. But I finished in 10 hours 36 and 10 seconds, and as I said, I felt really pleased with myself that I was now an ultra runner, and it gave me a lot of confidence building into the West Highland Way race, which was going to be my first West Highland Way 8 weeks later. By the time I came to the 2008 race, I was quite keen on doing some videos. So over the next 6 races, I took some videos and some photos that will give you an idea of how the race went. I think my training for 2008, my training had gone well. I was a bit more experienced, having done the West Highland race for a year, and I was hoping to go faster than my 2007 race. And I had a 10:15 plan. I was ahead at Balmahar, Drimmen, and I must admit I was a little bit concerned that maybe I'd gone off a little bit too fast. By the time I got to Balmahar, I was ahead of my schedule, and I was wondering whether I would pay for it later on. But basically I was able to keep a nice steady run going. It was a lovely day. There was quite a few people around. There was more people in that race, so there was you could see a few more people around. I seem to remember I was with people for most of the way. I left Rowedennen again ahead of my schedule and pretty happy with things. And then I got to Inversnaid, and I think my drop bag wasn't there. I don't know what had happened, but they couldn't find it. So a little bit concerned that I didn't have enough food. But I had a nasty fall between Inversnaid and Benglass. So by the time I arrived at Benglass, I had blood coming down my knee, which was it looked worse than it was actually, but it was quite fun in some ways. But I got away with that. And then I kept going, and I was always ahead of my schedule, and I knew I was going to beat 10 hours. And then I wondered just how quick I could do. So I pushed pretty hard. My quads were quite strong. I was able to finish. And I finished in 9 hours 44 and 41, which is actually my PB. I've not gone any quicker than that, but it was great to finish that race, and it gave me a lot of confidence building in for the race that year. 2009, again, I set off with a group, and this time they split the start. So the over 50s, which I was that year, I was 50 in 2009, and the women, we started at 6, and then the over 40s started at 8. And then the rest started at 9, and the relays started at 10. So that was quite different in a sense of different people. But again, felt really good. I ran a lot of the way with Mike Thompson and Sharon Law, and we toed and froed a few times. I think we came into Balnahar. I came in with Mike Thompson, and we had a bit of a battle for most of the way, which was good fun. And then the race went pretty well. And I remember one of the highlights for me was Jez Bragg, who I'd not met at that point. And he caught me just after Rowedennen, and he said, "Oh, you John Kynaston?" And we shook hands, and then I watched him go past me, and he won the race and had a cracking run. But he'd started an hour after me. And Thomas, he caught me just after Derry Darragh, and again he had a great race. And I had a bit of a struggle over the last 6 miles. I hadn't got my food strategy quite right. But I finished. In those days we used to finish just before the road, not where it finishes now, and I finished that year in 9 hours 49:11, which was a few minutes slower than the previous year, but again pretty pleased with that. 2010 I tried a different tactic. I decided to do something different. Rather than doing just the Fling and the West Highland Way, I would do the Hardmoors in March, the Fling in April, the Cateran in May, and then the West Highland Way. And it didn't really work for me, to be honest. I did the Hardmoors and enjoyed that, but my legs were still pretty tired when I came into the Fling in 2010. I had a bit of a struggle. I was hoping to go quicker than previous years, so I had a sort of a 9:40 schedule, but it was a bit unrealistic, and that was pretty obvious from Inversnaid onwards. And quite a few people were going past me after that. And it was hard work just to keep going, but I just continued to enjoy the route and enjoy being part of the race. I remember I think Sharon and Debs were behind me, and then they caught me somewhere along the way past Inversnaid, and it was a bit of a battle just to keep moving right to the end. But I finished, and I was able to finish in 10 hours 14:09. So again, that was probably my second slowest out of the 4 that I'd done at that point. But I did learn a number of lessons for the main race. But I think one of the main things, I just tried to do too many races that year, so it probably wasn't my best idea to do that. And then in 2011, I had a bit of a battle, really, in lots of ways. I think the previous year I'd done too much and it hadn't quite worked out. And 2011, I tried to go back to running different things, but again, it was the whole year was a tough year. I don't know quite what was wrong with me, but it was probably my worst year in lots of ways. The Fling was a struggle, and the West Highland Way was a real struggle. It took me 27.5 hours, and I had a real battle all the way through. And it was, I remember it was a really hot day. Again, I started off with the over 50s and the women at 6. It was still a split start, and I think there was just one at a time then. Maybe an hour later, the rest of the field started. But it was a really hot day. And I came into Balmaha and Rowadennan, and I think things started to, I think I was on target for sort of 10 hours, 10:15 at that point. But I wasn't able to keep it going, and it was a bit of a battle. And I met up with a girl called Claire, from Claire Walton from Liverpool, and we discovered that she too is an Everton supporter. And in fact, we discovered afterwards that our birthday was there on the same day, 20th of March, but she was quite a few years younger. And it was Claire's first ultra. She'd run a sub 3-hour marathon. She was obviously a very strong runner, done a lot of Ironman as well. But it was the first time she'd run this far, and she didn't quite know the way. So I think she was quite happy to run with someone who knew the direction. So we ran together and sort of kept it going all the way through. There was a couple of times I was encouraging her to go on because she was obviously stronger than me, but she seemed quite happy to stay together and to finish it together. So we kept that moving and finished together. And it was probably the hottest day that I'd done out of the flings that I've done. And I remember getting to Inversnaid, and it was pretty warm. And I remember really looking forward to, I'd done a smoothie at Benglass, and I froze it the night before. And so by the time I arrived, it had melted and it was perfect. So that was a really good idea. So it's a good tip. If it's a hot day, then it's really worthwhile doing something like that. Freeze a drink, and then by the time you get there in Benglass, it had unfroze, and it was just about right. So that was excellent. And but we finished the race, and we came in 10 hours 22 and 10 minutes. So that was good. And that was probably the first time I'd ever purposely run with someone. We ran together for pretty well from Balmaha onwards, I remember, and it was good fun. And that gave me a good idea as well of if ever Katrina wanted to run it, it'd be great to run with it together. And that's what we did the following year. So in 2012, I was wanting to do the Lakeland Hundreds. I wasn't doing the West Highland Way that year, and so I thought it was a really good idea to be able to run with a bit more gear. And Katrina wanted to run an ultra, so we said we'd run it together. So we trained together, and this was our first time that Katrina had done an ultra. She'd done the Loch Ness Marathon the year before, and this was her first venture into running ultras, so that was good for her as well. So we had again, I was really keen that Katrina set off at a sensible pace. I remember running through the forest after driven. This is the first time that they'd taken all the trees down, so it was very different. You could see Loch Lomond a lot earlier than you normally saw it, and then climbing over Connick Hill and then heading down into Balmaha, that was the same. But those woods after Drimmen were quite different, which was interesting. And then just before we got to Rowadennan, sadly Ellen, who was the founder of the race that few years ago, had fallen quite badly about half a mile before Rowadennan, and one or two people were helping her, so we went on and got the help and sent back the first aid to sort of see if she could get some help. But that was not a nice thing for her, but fortunately she was fine and she's back running. That was a few years ago now, but that was a bit of a tough time for her. And Katrina ran really well all the way through, again because the men were starting afterwards. Our good friend Dave Troman caught us, so it was good to see him, and he ran and had a really good run. And then Katrina and myself just kept a good pace going. And again, Katrina had ran 42 miles a month before, but this was the furthest she'd ran. But we finished in 12 hours 25 and 19 minutes, and that was a cracking run for Katrina, and it was really fun for us together to be able to share the route. I've been on it so much, and it was great that Katrina could run as well. And then the last Highland Fling I've done was 2013, so that was 4 years ago, and by now it had become a mass start, so we all started together, and I think they let people go off in waves because it was all chip timed. So it meant that people who wanted to run under 9 hours, under 10 hours could go off in sort of few minute intervals. And it seemed to work fine. I don't remember having problems at all. Ran with Murdo for a while. I think it was his first ultra for a while, so we sort of ran into Balmahar and were together for a bit, and then I think his legs started hurting again, so I didn't see him after that. And I was quite keen to try and run a decent time again. I'd had a better year that year. 2012 wasn't brilliant, and I was hoping that 2013 would be a bit of a better year for me, and I was working quite hard to do that and put some good training runs in, and I was hoping to get somewhere near 10 hours. And I remember Andy Cole going past me, and he was really running really well, and he just dipped under the 10 hours. And but it was a nice solid run, and I was behind at Benglass, but able to finish quite strongly. And I remember coming round into the finish, and John had moved it, and it's where it is now, without the red carpets. But we were running through into the by the way campsite, and that was a great finish. So I finished in 10 hours and 5 minutes and 59 seconds. So that was my final effort, and I was the final fling that I've done. So what's going to happen this year? My 8th running of the Highland Fling. I like to have a little bronze, silver and gold for each of my races, and so I've decided that my bronze for this year is going to be sub 11. So I'd like to feel as though even if things go a bit pear-shaped, I should be able to get under 11 hours. My silver is going to be 10 hours 30, so hopefully if I have a decent day with a few things going wrong, I should still be able to make that. And then my gold is going to be 10:15, and I think if I could get under 10:15, I'd be really pleased with that. Obviously I would love to get closer to 10 and even under 10, but I just don't know whether that's realistic. So I think a 10:15 I think that's a realistic challenge, and one that I hope to be able to do. So we'll see. Only a week and a half to wait, and looking forward to towing the line with however many people start, and I'm sure it's going to be another great day on the West Highland Way for the Highland Fling.